So then on Truth Social, you've got Donald Trump. And so it begins.
What begins? To me, and so it begins is like one of those comic book type lines that you might throw out when you don't actually have something to say, when you just got humiliated in a significant way, when you know that everybody who had a chance to vote in the country, or like a majority of people who had a chance to vote in the country, voted against basically you.
Yeah.
And you just say, and so it begins, right? As you just like come out in your pajamas and peek your head out and just say that. And, you're just throwing it out there because you actually don't know what to say. I think that Trump's ego is so big, even he did not anticipate this kind of shellacking.
Well, earlier in the night, he posted something. He's like, well, according to the pollsters, we're talking about the main issues that hurt Republicans were that I wasn't on the ballot specifically, and that people are getting pretty fed up with the government shutdown, which they've tried so hard to blame on Democrats. But the country, I think, very clearly understands,
some sombreros didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sombreros didn't work. And you can't be like, the Democrats they're the reason that we're not doing SNAP benefits and stuff while you're throwing Great Gatsby parties, not realizing in that novel that the people at the party are like the bad people in the novel. These people don't read books.
Well, Jared, it's possible, and then this is crazy, that maybe people looked at the Doge cuts, months and months of that, and associated that also with the shutdown. It's like, hey, maybe one of these sides is actually really adverse to the government doing anything decent for people, other than carrying out retribution campaigns with masked men. To me, what this means, and I don't want to say that Nick is right about this, but I do think that the core of what MAGA is now really up for grabs. I really think Trump is approaching 80. They have tried, as Nick said, their way. We've tried it their way. And I think that, what those Groyper people seem to believe as America First is the only thing that is close to a coherent political program, in the sense it's explicitly fascist.
Yeah,
but it's explicitly fascist.
But you know what it wants.
What you have ultimately here is like this thing that is both fascist and authoritarian, and also sloppy and grifty and corrupt, and just siphoning money, promising a new world of fascism on one hand, giving some brutality, and really just playing in the old world for all the money that they can steal from whomever, right? Anything that isn't nailed down, which has been covered really well, honestly, by South Park of all shows. But yeah, I really think that they don't have a project that people are enthusiastic for at the level it needs to be. And also Trump, like I said, 80, he is a lame duck. I don't know if there's going to be that if they take another beating during the midterms, I don't know if there'll be the enthusiasm that Trump needs in order to really do this whole third term takeover that he talks about.
I think a way to think about this is that the MAGA project is like an older property at this point in politics. It has gone through the phases. There is like a head shop that is clearly like laundering money in this storefront. And I think there's a sense from people like Fuentes or people in sort of the more aggressive parts of the Republican movement that this property is about to get foreclosed on. And maybe that's why we're seeing so much Fuentes. Maybe that's why we're seeing so many people trying to differentiate themselves, why we're seeing these factions going at war with each other right now, is there's a sense that this is going to the auction block soon. And they are kind of testing things out or feeling things out to see what happens. What do you do with the bones of this project? because it has taken the Republican Party so far off chart from where it was pre-Trump. And if Trump does try to run again, it'll be what, 84 at that point? So if the Democrats put somebody who's like 45 in there and can speak a coherent sentence, he's cooked. He's dead.
I've spoken a lot about my concerns about voting irregularities and voter suppression. Not a factor here, thank God. And let's keep that going. I've always said that, like, feel free to come to me and say, like, hey, nothing happened. And I will be so happy to hear it. You know, but I could easily see So It Begins as being like the time in which they do that. I never thought that 2025 was really the target for something like that. They might experiment with it by having, you know, soldiers around polling places or something, but that they wouldn't go all in. 2026, though, is different. And if it looks like it's going to be really, really bad for them, this is a kind of desperate animal, and we've seen their desperation. Like they pulled out successes by doing insane things in the past, MAGA. You know, I could see them just going back to the well with crazy and trying to do, you know, hey, they'll do stuff that on its face would embarrass anyone else and just do it, right? So they may say, like, things are not like this result sucked. Let's see what we can do about it. Like, you know, whatever it is, I think, you know, opponents of MAGA, because I don't want to say Democrats, because I don't identify as such, and I don't think, you know, necessarily a lot of our listeners necessarily do.
Yeah, I also hate the Democrats, but it's more of like a contempt thing.
Yes. And these winners ideologically are probably all, you know, relatively all over the map between Mamdani and some of the other winners, Expandberger and stuff like that. But I guess what I would say is, you know, just probably the way to look at this is defanging MAGA is one victory at a time, and that's not just voting. In fact, voting may be not the most important thing. It's things like the No Kings protests. I noticed we're polling, you know, pretty close to 500 in the country. It's like in the high 40s, which is crazy for one of these. I think it's actually that type of work more than anything will undercut MAGA and probably played a role in the results that we see here.
It changes like the social feeling around this stuff. Trump's tweet, like, I don't want to read too much into like the ramblings of Trump posts or whatever, but he says, you know, so it begins. It, I think, is sort of the key word here. It's not like, ooh, rough night. Man, we lost some elections, whatever. Something, they see something coming for them. They see something is headed directly at them. And this is the start of it. And I think the left would be good to start thinking about it the same way and get excited about that and realize that, like, bad shit is not inevitable. Feels almost cringe to say, but, like, yes, good things can happen if you are in solidarity, if you are organized as communities, if you fight for some shit, you can win it. Kind of rambling point. A lot of thoughts in my head, right? Because it's like, I thought Zoran would win, but I didn't expect it. These sweeps across other states too. And I feel I'm kind of like bouncing all over my words here, but I feel like a shimmer of optimism that I haven't felt in a while. And it feels a little strange. I also just didn't sleep that much last night. So
it's Chuck Todd's shiver up the leg or whatever. I don't even remember that with Obama. It's like, I felt a shiver up my thigh directly into my groin.